I'm Jayvana Perez, and I'm class of 2022 here at SUNY Oswego. So I'm really excited to be part of this Imagine 2021 and hosting this session with you all called My Identity and My Career. I'm going to talk to an Oswego alum about how they saw their own identity evolve throughout their career. They'll also share advice for students who are currently navigating their own identities. If you like hearing their story and our conversation, there's going to be a different student with a different alum next week at the same time here on the live, and you can check out the link for more information. So before I introduce you to our awesome alum, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm majoring in criminal justice and communications and a minor in human development. You may know me from, I'm an RA also in KU Hall. I'm the Madam President of the Latino Student Union. I'm a peer health educator, and among other things. So tonight I'll be speaking with Sandra Michaca, who is the class of 2013 at SUNY Oswego. Ms. Michaca graduated with a double major in public justice and Spanish. So now, for Ms. Michaca, I'm gonna start waving at everybody. Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Hello.
Hi everyone.
So I just introduced you with your major and your graduating class. If you want to let us know what you're doing now, how's life, your occupation, all that good stuff.
Okay. So first, my name is Sandra Michaca. I think Jayvana said I graduated in 2013. I'm currently an immigration attorney at the Lopez Law Firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, I came to the South, even though I'm from New York. And well, while I was a student at SUNY Oswego, I did a lot at Oswego. I was part of Alpha Sigma Chi. I was in the Asian Student Association. I danced for the Caribbean Student Association and the Latino Student Union. I participated in the ALANA. I was in the Student Association as well on the Supreme Court. And I was also on the Black Law Student Association. Me and another student, while I was there, we initiated that program actually while we were there. I think that's all. I'm probably forgetting something. I did so much at Oswego. I was a TA at some point for one of criminal justice, a criminal justice class. Yeah, and something fun about myself. Yeah, I did a lot. I'm like, I hope I mentioned all of them. I think I did. But I was pretty active. I like to put myself out there with everyone. Being diverse. Yeah, and then something about myself that's fun. Well, I like to go for walks, spend time with my family. Yeah, that's about it.
And thank you for sharing. So we have a few questions for Sandra, but you guys can also feel free to write your questions in the chat and we'll get to them. So to start off, you kind of touched on it, but if you want to add anything on, feel free to. So what do you currently do and how did you get there?
So I'm an immigration attorney. Well, it all started when I was about 14 years old, I believe. My parents were here. Well, my parents came from Mexico in 1990. So I was an advocate for them at a very young age, I guess you can say, right? My parents didn't know any English. I remember going to appointments or anything with my mom, and I would be the translator, right? Like, translate, help me. So I think I was an advocate at a very young age. And so my parents were actually going through a immigration process themselves when I was young. And I remember going to the attorney's office and I knew I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, right, with my life, but I knew, okay, I know I want to help people, right? What can I do or what can I be that helps people? And I was inspired by this attorney. I started asking the attorney questions. like how they help people. I saw how he helped my mom. And I was inspired. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to do the same thing. I want to be somebody who helps others, just like this attorney helped my parents. And so I got inspired from then. I started getting into the law. I actually, funny thing was that in middle school, they had a criminal law class. So I started with criminal law. And then in high school, they also had a criminal law program, and I was in their criminal law program. And then in college, I went for public justice. And so that was also criminal law, which is funny because nothing has to do with immigration there. It's all criminal law.
Right,
so
right.
You're like, so anyways, then while I was in, when I went to law school, I ended up interning at a family law firm. And so nothing has, I've never interned at an immigration firm, but I knew back in the back of my head that that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And so after I graduated college, when I was in law school though, I did the clinic, the immigration law clinic, but that was like my only experience. But I knew that's what I wanted to be. So, from the age of 14 that I wanted to do immigration. And one of the reasons now that I think back, like why I didn't do any immigration internships or anything like that. And I just think I didn't have that opportunity, or maybe I didn't reach out, or didn't look into that opportunity. But I know you mentioned that you actually interned at a immigration firm, which I think is great, because I think you should definitely step into different areas so that you can see what is it that you really want to do.
Yeah, I think that touches a good point, because I feel like when people think about lawyers or just law in general, it's like criminal law, but there's so many different branches to it that I feel like, especially like having you talk about it is really nice, because like we get to know like, hey, it's not only criminal law. There's like so many different branches. So it's actually really cool.
And the funny thing is that in law school, they don't even teach you immigration. They have like an immigration clinic. They teach you what they really teach you is more about passing the bar exam, right? Because you need to pass the bar exam in order for you to become a lawyer. You graduate law school, but in order to practice, you have to pass this bar so that you can actually get a license to practice. So that's really what they prepare you for. But then once you get out of law school, you realize that there's so many areas of the law that you may not even know about it ever unless you start going into these little areas or start interning, right, at different law firms, and you learn so much from interning.
Right. And something else that I just want to touch on then once we get to the second question is the fact that like how our parents have such like, I know like as being bilingual, you having to be that translator, it also like just you gain skills. Like I don't know if you share the same thing, but like I tell my mom this all the time. Like I've been able to multitask because I would have to talk to somebody in English. My mother's telling me tell them this in Spanish, and then you have to translate while also listening to the person talking to you. So I think it's just like it's crazy, like but it's so like you gain so many skills through that as well.
Yes, and I think that when we're doing it at a younger age, I feel like we don't even notice what we're doing or what we're learning or the skill sets that we're obtaining, right? But you're right. It is a skill set because, now I even now, like let's say I need to help somebody with translation, it's so fast because I've been used to it. I've been doing it for a long time. I still do it for my mom, but I definitely agree that we learn that skill set at a very young age, which I think is good because we learn how to multitask, like you said.
Yeah.
So definitely good, yeah.
Yeah, I used to complain. I used to be like, Mom, like, wait, I need them to wait. And she's like, well, now you learn how to multitask. I'm like, you're right. So, but now going on to the next question is, would you say your identity has played a part in your path so far, and how? You kind of touched upon it, but if you want to go dive in a little deeper.
Yes. So I think the reason, I think that because I'm Hispanic, right, and Latina, and then my parents being from Mexico, and then like I said, I was inspired because I was inspired by their attorney who was helping them with their immigration process. I wanted to do the same thing for others, and it has helped me because now I get to help people who are the same, who have the same identity as me, right? Who are Latinos or from other countries, who came to this country like my parents did, for a better future, for a better life, for them, for their children. And it helps because I kind of understand where they're coming from, and then if they do speak Spanish, well, then I can easily communicate with them as well, and they can easily communicate with me as to their needs as well.
Right. And I think it also, like, also given that I also intern at an immigration office, like the immigration office that I interned in is the same immigration office that helped my mother obtain her papers as well. Nice. So like you're behind the scenes and you see all the work, and it's like, oh my God, like this takes a village, you know, like you can't, one person, like you got to do the translations, you got to do the forms, you got to verify. And I feel like it's just really nice to be behind the scenes and be able to see like the process of being able to, assist somebody in obtaining their status here.
Definitely. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of people to gather all the information, to look over the information, to make sure that this person actually is eligible, right? Because not everybody is eligible to adjust status or stay in the United States. And like I mentioned before, with you having a conversation with you earlier, immigration is very complex. So it's definitely advisable, to always have an attorney when it comes to immigration.
Right.
Anything law, I think you should have. Don't ever just do anything yourself.
For sure.
Because the law itself is complex.
Right. You open one thing and it's just like, I'm just like, oh my God. But all right. So just for everybody viewing, just if you guys joined us later after I said this, but if you guys have any questions that you guys want to ask, feel free to put them in the chat so that we make sure to get to your question. But moving on to the third question, what's your best advice for students who have faced challenges or barriers related to their identity?
So before we get to that question, I did want to mention another, like, I guess I wanted to say how I got here, right? And my journey to where I am today. Well, when I was, and I mentioned this earlier to you, when I was in New York City, I feel like there was so much diversity. I honestly didn't even realize about my identity. I didn't realize it at all, right? Until I went to Oswego, right? In Oswego, we realized that we have an identity. We are Latinas. We're considered a minority, right? Although we're not minorities, because but when I was in college, I was the only Latina in the class, and the same thing in law school. I think in law school it was literally 3 Latinas in that school.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I didn't realize this until after, to be honest. I was like, wow. I mean, it wasn't that diverse. And maybe because another thing that may have something to do with it is because I moved out of New York City, right? It was like New York City was so diverse. I mean, I don't know how it is going to law school in New York City, because I didn't go to law school in New York City. It may be different. It may be more diverse, right? But I didn't go to law school in New York City. So I went from New York City to Oswego, and then I moved down to North Carolina, to the south, But yeah, there was 3 Latinas there. We graduated. And then I took the bar exam and I became an attorney. But what I wanted to say is, I think that even if we face barriers or challenges, I think that you should not get discouraged. Even I remember when I spoke in 2018, I was the key speaker for one of the ALANA events. And I remember a student came to me and he told me that one of his professors had told him that because he was Hispanic, he wasn't going to amount to anything, or it was a shame that he was Hispanic. And honestly, that shocked me. It really did, because I was like, wow, first of all, a professor's telling you this, like he should not be telling you that. Second of all, that is not true, right? Why? Because I think that we are needed. We are needed, okay? And we are getting there. I see it. I see every I see all the accomplishments and I get happy and so proud of all my Latinos and my Latinas, right?
Yeah.
And it helps us because, like you said, we learn skills at a very young age. Okay. Um, and I think we're needed. We're heavily needed in any area. And I don't think that because of your identity, you should get discouraged. And if you want to do something, you should definitely reach out to other people. There's a lot of people who are willing to help. Um, and I've actually learned that within um, the immigration community, within the attorneys. And to be honest, I have met a lot of immigration attorneys who are Latinos. And so that was actually another shocker because I was like, wow, there's a lot. There's a lot. There was only 3 of us in law school. But in reality, there's a lot of attorneys who are Latino and Hispanic and all other races. And so I just think that don't get discouraged. Definitely go for what you are trying to do. And if you feel like you're getting discouraged or you feel like you can't get out of that feeling, definitely reach out to people who will encourage you, who will push you, because you can do it.
Yes, yes, we all can definitely do it. I really like that. I really did. So the next question is, since graduating, how have you learned more about your identity and the value it has brought to you as a professional?
Well, like I mentioned before, I think we are needed heavily. Okay, it definitely helps that we speak 2 languages because sometimes that's you don't see that. You know, when I got out of law school, I started working at a Social Security law firm, and I was the only Latina there. I was the only person who spoke Spanish, and I see other law firms as well who don't have that. They any area of the law, like there isn't that diversity, there isn't that um, other, there isn't that diversity, and it's needed in all fields, either within law, within the market. So we are definitely needed, and I think that we should be able to see that as well.
Yeah, I think it's really nice that we have you as because you have the experience, and I feel like when a lot of people talk about immigration, migrating, it's like it seems as if it's so easy. It's not, it's just easy peasy, get your papers and that's it. But it's so much more complex than people make it seem. And I just feel like having you here and having you speak, we've been able to see that because I mean it's a lot. But so if you guys, once again, if you guys have any questions, sorry to cut you off, but if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat so that we make sure that we get your answers that you guys may want. But as you were saying,
Where did we leave off?
Oh yeah, so it was just the question was, since graduating, how have you learned more about your identity and the value it has brought to you as a professional? So I don't know if you wanted to add a little anything else.
Well, that was yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that we're definitely valued. It's definitely needed everywhere, and I think that we should embrace who we are and where we come from.
So a personal question that just came to mind was, so once graduation from Oswego came along, like how was it planning? Like, did you always know you wanted to go to law school right after? Because I know some people take breaks. So like, how was that? How was navigating that and like taking those decisions that some people just.
So I knew I wanted to go to law school for a very long time, like I mentioned. But honestly, because I was doing so much at Oswego, and then I knew I wanted to study abroad too. So the time was going by so fast that I was like, okay, I'm about to graduate, and I haven't even studied abroad yet because I was busy participating in all these programs. Because it's time consuming, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's fun. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I'm about to graduate. I need to go study abroad. So I actually went ahead and I studied abroad. And because I did that, I had to make a decision as to whether I was going to take the LSAT or not, right? Because you also need to take time to study for that. Mm-hmm. And so I did not take the LSAT right away. I actually took a year off. And I was actually working in a family slash criminal law firm. I started off as a paralegal, and I was working there for a year. And then I finally studied for the LSAT, and I took the LSAT, got accepted to law school, and then I moved to North Carolina.
That's I well personally that was really helpful for me for like, but I think that's also important because a lot of people, some I know some of my friends who graduated college or like or just like family members, they're like sometimes a lot of employers they want your like certification, your license, but they also look for that experience. So it's like, okay, then what do I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's I agree. I agree. I know I was there and I was like, well, how do you want me to have this experience? Like I just graduated college.
Right.
How do you want me to have this experience if nobody's giving me the opportunity, right?
Right.
And I think you just have to find that person or that job or that, that employer who sees it and who sees you as a person, and sees that you will try the best you can to do your job. I just think that's what happened to me. I was applying and applying. Honestly, it took me about 6 months for me to get that job, after I graduated college. But I was applying and nothing. And I finally met this attorney and I told her what I wanted to do, that I wanted to go to law school in the future. But right now, I was taking a year off, and she took me under her wing, and I worked there for a year, learned a little bit about family law and criminal law, which starts good, right? It's kind of a internship, a learning experience. And so that's how I started. And then after that, I came to law school.
That's really nice. Alrighty. So I do not see any questions. I do say Tiffany, she commented, she said, I believe people don't realize that it takes such an emotional, mental, and physical toll. And I believe that's when we're talking about the whole immigration process and all that good stuff.
Yes. And actually that's one of the things that I do. I know earlier you were talking about that you had interned at an immigration firm and that you were working on waivers, right, for people. And so part of that, what I do when I work on the waivers is people, and I, and I see their emotional, mental impact. We actually, most of our clients usually go see psychologists, so that they can get evaluated on how they're doing, because sometimes even themselves, they don't know what they're going through, right? They don't know that they're having depression or that what they're really feeling is anxiety. And sometimes they act off on it. They get frustrated with their own family members, their own children. And part of it is because of the way they're feeling and they don't know how to express that. Right. So I definitely see that. And like we mentioned before, it's very complex. We see a lot of things, but it definitely is a lot of, it's emotional, mental to take in and to deal with. Yeah.
For sure. That actually reminded me, my first year coming into Oswego, I don't know, but like they have like the Ori book reading. And my year, our book was Tell Me How It Ends, an essay in 40 questions by Valeria Lucelli. And she basically talks about the immigration process. And she talks about, she's a translator for kids who are crossing the border, and it's an emotional toll that she goes through, and she talks about it. And she has like a daughter who's like asking her like, hey mom, how did this case go? And like, her daughter's like 4 or 5 years old, so she can't go into so much detail. But if you guys want a good book, I think that's a good book, and it kind of ties into like what we were just talking about and like the behind the scenes of everything. But I think that's about it for tonight. Would you like to say anything else? I want to express our gratitude for taking time out of your busy day to come and speak to us. But before we have one question. So have you ever faced burnout in your career?
I think sometimes it gets to be a lot. I wouldn't necessarily say burnout. I mean, I just think that I just deal with stress in a good way, I guess you can say. Some people don't. Some people can't deal with stress. But I definitely think that it is a lot. And to be honest, there is a lot of CLEs out there for attorneys who burn out or who do immigration or who do any other type of law, because it can be a lot. But they do tell us to take care of ourselves as well, you know, to do exercise, to go for a walk, to do extra hobbies, and to not try to work 60 hours a week, right? Because then that's not good. We also need to be able to breathe, right? So that we can effectively advocate for our clients. Because if we're burnt out, then we can't think and be, that's not good. So, I mean, if it ever gets to that point, I know that I have to first take care of myself, and then so that I can advocate to the best of my ability for my clients.
Definitely. Sorry, one more thing, just one question that just popped in my head.
Go ahead.
Given the pandemic and everything, how has that affected like how you've been able to connect with clients? And that, you know, I don't know if you're able to still see them in the office or how that may work. How's that going?
So I think the pandemic has changed the way of business everywhere. I think it's definitely forced everybody to do virtual, right? Kind of like what we're doing right now.
Right.
I think, yeah. So, I mean, most of my meetings have been virtually. Consultations have been virtual. Um, Meetings have been all virtual. Um, Majority of it have been virtual, unless, I mean, sometimes here and there, if it depends on the client, right? Especially if they're not tech savvy, it becomes harder. I mean, we do still have staff in the office. And there was one where I had to do a face to face, obviously wearing my mask and everything. But that was about it. But everything has been virtual.
Okay, yeah. It's crazy. Because I know class of 2020 going into the workforce, I know some of my friends, it's been very difficult. It's been very hard finding jobs and then having a job, but then everything is virtual, and like just having that connection with their coworkers and their clients has just been so complex. So yeah, it's crazy. But hopefully things get better.
Hopefully it does. I mean, I honestly don't. I mean, I give props to all you students who are doing everything virtual because I could not imagine doing that virtual. I mean, everything virtual. I mean, the classes. But I mean, it's doable, and we have to adopt, right? We have to adopt the change. So, but hopefully everything gets better, and this year it's different.
Hopefully. But I think we don't have any more questions. So that was really great. I really want to thank you so much for sharing your experience, Sandra, and insight and time with us tonight. And of course, thank you for everyone who's been watching and joining us tonight. There will be, like I said earlier, there will be another My Identity and My Career session next Thursday at the same time here at Oswego at Higher Oz. So hopefully we'll see you then. Have a great night. And once again, thank you so much, Sandra, for being part of this conversation and having a different outlook that I think is really important for everybody to know.
Definitely. Thank you, Jayvana.
Have a great night. Stay safe.
Thank you. You as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.